Hey everyone, welcome in. We're diving deep into the world of sign language interpreting today.
Yeah, it's way more than just knowing sign language.
Right, we've got stories, career insights, the whole picture, really digging into what it takes.
And it's fascinating, honestly. Like, we often think it's just word for word, right? But our sources show it's so much deeper.
Definitely, like bridging the gap between spoken and sign language, but also cultures, even life experiences.
You got it.
One source talked about interpreting a joke, but the deaf person might not get the cultural reference. So how do you make that funny, make the meaning land?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's about the message getting through, spoken, or signed. And that takes you to all sorts of places, these interpreters, courtrooms,
Oh, I bet.
hospitals, schools, conferences, everywhere.
High pressure stuff. Our sources really highlighted that. The jargon in legal situations, the emotions in medical, you need skills beyond just the signs.
Absolutely. Active listening, reading people, processing so fast it's absorbing, analyzing instantly, then giving it back with all the same feeling, the same clarity.
Wow, demanding is right. Makes you think about how much we take communication for granted. What skills stood out to you for succeeding in this field?
One source nailed it. Emotional intelligence. It's not just language, it's navigating feelings. Sensitive info, tough situations, you have to stay neutral,
Right, confidential.
keep it all together, but the message is still accurate. It's huge.
Yeah, that emotional side, I can only imagine. But before we go there, what about technology? Video calls, remote stuff, that's changing things up, right?
Totally. Feels like a whole new world, all this tech. What's the impact, really?
Mm.
Well, video interpreting, right? Game changer, our sources said. Especially, say, rural areas, or you need a specialist, specific field. Opens up everything.
Amazing. Like, no more geographical limits, stuff that used to stop people connecting. But there's going to be downsides too, right? Not all perfect.
Oh, for sure. Sources mention that glitches, messing up the interpretation, and quality's got to stay high no matter what tech you're using. Whole new set of worries.
Adaptable. That's what you need to be these days, keeping up with it all. Speaking of which, what about the career itself? Becoming an interpreter, how's that work?
Solid education, that's the base. Degrees, sign language interpretation, deaf studies, linguistics, common ones.
Makes sense.
But, our sources said, even education, psychology, those could be surprisingly useful depending on where you're interpreting.
Right. It's that people part, the emotions we were saying, not just the signs alone.
100%. Then there's certification. RAD, Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, they're big. And NIC, National Interpreter Certification. Those are the gold standard.
Proof you can handle it, not just, oh, I know some signs.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I'm ready for this, I'm qualified. And speaking of which, career-wise, it's interesting how it goes. We've got examples, people starting as assistants, shadowing the experienced interpreters. Then, gradually, they do more on their own.
Room to grow, specialize even. One source mentioned like finance or tech becoming the go-to person for that. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. And as you get experience, mentoring, leading teams, even consulting on accessibility, making policies more inclusive, real impact.
Okay, so clear path for those who love it. But realistically, jobs. Is there a need for this out in the world?
Big time. One source, they said job growth, 19% projected, all the way to 2028. That's way higher than average. Most other jobs.
19%. Wow, that's huge. Shows you how much need there is everywhere.
It does, but got to be real. Both sides. Rewarding, yes, but emotionally draining too. You're in the thick of it, intense stuff, easy to burn out if you're not careful.
Makes sense. Not just the knowing, it's the feeling what they're saying, right? Sources mention this vicarious trauma taking on the weight of the conversations.
Heavy stuff. Self-care, boundaries, so important in this field. But even with all that, the good. You're changing lives, literally. Communication happens because of you, making things more inclusive. Powerful stuff.
It is, really makes you think. But all this tech getting better, what about the future of this? Can AI ever really get it, the nuances, the way a human interpreter does?
Million-dollar question. Let's dig into that after a quick break.
That really has me thinking, that question you asked about AI. Could it ever really get to that level like human interpreters? What did our sources say?
It's a big one, yeah. One source, they were saying AI's got limits still.
Yeah.
Things like cultural context, humor, even just those little emotional things we pick up on, AI struggles with that.
Yeah, can it really understand us that well to bridge the gap? Like, think about sarcasm. You can't just translate the words or even a look, a gesture. It changes everything.
Exactly. What our sources emphasized, it's the human factor. Empathy, understanding, and knowing the culture inside and out. AI is not there yet. It's not just language, it's translating meaning.
Yeah.
All the messy, complicated stuff that makes us human.
makes you appreciate what interpreters do. It's an art almost. Like maybe AI can do the technical part one day, but replace that connection person to person.
That's the heart of it, right?
Yeah.
And something to think about. With all this tech moving so fast, how do we keep communication accessible, fair, even if AI gets bigger and bigger?
Finding that balance, it's like the potential of the tech is great, but how do we keep what's special, what humans bring to it? So to everyone listening, as you learn more about this, it's a good question to ask yourself. Tech and human skills, how do they work together in the future of this? Will AI be a tool to make what interpreters do even stronger, reach more people, better understanding?
Now that is something we're thinking about for sure. Lots of possibilities. Who knows what we'll be able to do.
I know, right? We really went deep today, didn't we? Everyday life as an interpreter, but also these huge questions about tech, the future of how we even talk to each other. But hopefully everyone listening has a better sense now of what it takes and how important this work is, always changing too.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Keep those brains buzzing, folks, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget, knowledge is power.